Hello, Bullpups. I want to take a moment and introduce to you a new thing that's going to be coming to you on a monthly basis called the Bullpup Brief. So, what is a Bullpup Brief? Well, essentially, it's an opportunity for myself to give you district updates, talk a little bit about our achievement, areas for growth, future plans, and eventually answer questions from the community that I'll take from your feedback as we go throughout the month. Well, our overview for the first inaugural Bullpup Brief. First, you have to find out who I am. I should begin by saying that I'm Blake Vargas, the new superintendent here at Caney Valley, and I'll talk a little bit about my path that I took in order to arrive here. We'll look at the budget, talk about some change on the horizon. What is a bullpup? Well, we'll figure that out. And finally, look at some of our beginning of the year activities. First up, who is Mr. Vargas? Well, I must begin by thanking our local paper, the Montgomery County Chronicle, and Mr. Taylor for doing a wonderful job introducing me through the fine print. But here's my path. I was a graduate just south of the border at Dewey High School, home of the Bulldoggers. From there, I attended the University of Oklahoma and obtained a degree in social studies education and had an opportunity to begin working part-time as a sub in the special education room at Jinx Middle School. And it was a wonderful opportunity. My first full-time, though, really presented itself after one Christmas when an individual left partway through the year, and I was able to take over at the home of the Sandites in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. For personal reasons, my wife and I decided that we did not want to find out what it was like to live in Houston, and we decided to pursue an opportunity for her in Wichita, Kansas, which brought me to El Dorado Middle School, where I was a history teacher. In addition, I also began coaching football, basketball, track, about everything that you can imagine at both the middle school and high school level. It was at the same time that I began pursuing my degree in educational administration through Emporia State. And from there, after obtaining the degree, I had an opportunity to go back to actually the spot where my grandmother graduated at Field Kinley Memorial High School in Coffeyville, Kansas, a neighboring school district. Same time, I began to pursue my specialist degree in ed leadership through Pitt State University, and I'm currently pursuing my doctorate at the University of Arkansas, which has brought me here to my new home in Caney, Kansas, the home of the Bullpups. I can't begin to tell you and express how happy I've been with the move, how welcoming you've been as a community. You've definitely lived up to your reputation, and I can't thank you enough for that. My family has thoroughly enjoyed it. This is a picture of my son on the left, Bradley, as he began to get into some of the summer leagues in soccer and t-ball, and my daughter Lucy on the right. 3 things that you can count on me as the new leader here as a superintendent at Caney Valley. Some guiding principles that I take from Lou Holtz, an outstanding coach. First, I will always do what's right. And again, that'll take many forms as we go through, but simply you can be assured that I'll always have your students' best interest at heart as I'm making decisions surrounding the school district. Second, I'll always do my best. You can count on me to be in and make sure that I'm always pursuing that excellence that Caney's grown accustomed to and help ensure that we remain a model district in Southeast Kansas that sets the tone when it comes to education. And third, I'll definitely always remember the golden rule in treating others as I want to be treated. And again, that can take many forms, but you can be sure that I'll always make sure, as I had said in the beginning, that the student's best interest will always come first. One thing we need to talk a little bit about is our budget. And again, numbers are always different as you begin looking at, and Mr. Taylor knows that he does a fine job of reporting things, but numbers can be deceiving, and we'll get into that. If you read his article, he did an excellent job, and that's one thing I've always been very gracious about, is he does a great job covering the news and reporting on the facts. He talks about some of these very key factors that I'll talk about as to why we saw this increase. So the first one, initially we had a $3 million decreased assessed valuation that came on. Now, how does that affect us? Essentially, that affects how much money we're able to collect from taxes. When our assessed valuation goes down, that means that we have the ability, or I should say the inability, to collect the same amount of money. So we were going to see almost a $4 million increase just off of that initial valuation that had come in. We've also received, and as you've heard, our decreased state aid. The state has not been generous in ensuring adequate or equitable funding. And as I point out later, the courts have ruled on time and time again that they're not providing what they should. Again, our levels are at historic lows when you look over the past few years. And although they use some tricky accounting when it comes to it, the fact of the matter is that again, we're not receiving equitable or adequate funding as deemed by the court on many levels. Unfortunately, one of the things that happened last year is we did decrease our local option budget mill rate. So our effort that we were supporting, and because of that, and I won't get into too many technical things, with the new block grant, it essentially locked in our funding. Well, previously we were able to get support from the state whenever we would add in a tax through this LOB. That has went away, and because of that, it has become increasingly hard with any increase that we're going to see. And finally, it's important to note that we've spent up our reserves in both capital and contingency. Over the last 5 years, almost over 1.1 million we've spent in trying to make sure that we do not increase the tax burden. We're simply at the point where we cannot continue our spending trend and still be at an operating budget above zero, which again, we have to be. We do not have the ability to go into the negative. We have to ensure that we continue those programs and those traditions that have come to set Caney apart from other school districts, and we simply cannot do that without ensuring a fair and equitable increase for all taxpayers. So the known, we are locked into many of our costs. We saw a healthcare increase. Our transportation fleet is very aging, and because of past expenditures, as far as saving expenditures, I should say, we actually made the decision in the past to not have a maintenance director for a while. This has really caused us to see some concerns with preventable maintenance in our heat and air, and it's really catching up with us. Finally, we know that to keep up with the needs of the 21st century for our students especially, we have to look at some necessary technology upgrades. Factor 6 is the part that's scary, and that's the unknown. Every year we have a couple of units that go out, whether it be on the heat or the AC side. We have unforeseen things that come up, and it's that unknown that we're trying to prepare for. It may seem funny to talk about that we're trying to prepare for the unknown, but really it's our goal to be proactive about these things versus reactive. So the good news, the board's made a huge decision to put us back on track towards stability. They've chosen to go with about as conservative as an increase as we possibly can that will not only begin to help us save for the future, but will also ensure that we can maintain those programs that Caney's known for. We also know that the good news is that the court has ruled yet again that the legislature is not providing adequate or equitable funding for our schools. We can only hope that the ruling comes out soon to finalize what that amount should look like, and that once again we see education as a priority across the state as much as they do with certain interests. That still doesn't take away the headline, and again that 36% hike may seem like a large number until you really look at it. What I do know is that after building the budget, I felt like we really did need a lifeline. I felt like I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And we actually got it in the form of a pipeline. And when I had talked about our initial assessed valuation, that was something that came back substantially higher because of the pipeline. This was a huge help to us as a district overall and really allowed us in one subsequent year to really begin planning for the future. And it's a blessing that, again, we did not see coming, but that was glad to have completed as they finished that. So let's look at what that 36% looks like. For the average home, which is the yellow column in the middle, which is taken from multiple realtor sites, if you look at the bottom, that was our proposed initial budget, was an increase of around 14 mil. For the average home in Caney, Kansas, that was a monthly impact of $6.87. With the pipeline coming in, we were able to decrease that amount by almost $1. And so as you see on the top chart, and again, our increase will actually be slightly below the 12 mark, the average taxpayer will see a monthly impact of simply $5.89. So where is this coming from? This is from what's called our local option budget. Things to know about it. It's also called the Supplemental General Fund. Every district has the authority to be at 30% of their general fund. We were 19% last year, the second lowest in the state, and we've had this trend for the past decade. The state average is over 28%, which tells you that the majority of districts, including all of those in our area, have been and are continuing to be at that max 30%. Many of the districts have also voted to increase that authority to 33%. And again, that takes a vote, but multiple districts have done that in order to increase their funding. We have statistically have been one of the lowest in the state, and even with our increase, we'll still be one of the lowest in the state. What you must realize is that for the first time as a district, we'll finally be contributing more to our local schools than to what we've been doing to our community colleges. So let's talk a little bit about change. The road ahead is very, very bright. We've recently brought on a public works system to help us train our individuals and track those as well regarding mandatory statutes at both the state and the federal levels. For the first time, we've added a professional development day and taken it from the beginning of the year and moved it in the spring. This will allow us to provide time for transition as well as positive collaborative experience for our teachers. Shortly, because of our company previously no longer exists, our website needed to go with a total upgrade. Again, we had to search out a new company with our previous one not in business anymore, and very soon you'll see that being unveiled, and it'll be a very nice step forward with our communication ability. Keep 2 is the latest evaluation tool that the state has offered us that we'll be updating to in order to effectively evaluate our teachers and provide them the best opportunity to be the best instructor in the classroom. School Messenger replaces School Reach as our primary method of communication. And finally, we'll be developing a long-range plan that will be calling on members of the community to help us out. Next up, moving into a new district, it was important that I understand exactly what is a bullpup. Well, another gentleman that really guides a lot of my principles is Coach Bill Snyder, and he has 16 success traits that I saw indicative of Caney students that graduate from our school system. These same success traits we were able to narrow down and begin to define what a bullpup is. Simply building up lifelong passion under proven success. So let's talk a little bit about some of the beginning of the year activities. This is a picture from our first day of school. And if you haven't followed me yet on either Facebook or Twitter, these have already been out there. But this was again the sun rising on a beautiful day at Lincoln Memorial Elementary. And the close of that first day as our buses were lined up outside of the junior and high school. I can't begin to thank the community for all that they've done. In particular, 3 entities called upon numerous organizations within the community to help out and provide a gift for every single individual involved within the district. Every staff member was given a simple gratitude, a gift that ranged from gift cards to multiple candy items, mugs, even a microwave. I was completely impressed and humbled by the effort of our 3 local bank leaders to reach out and gather that support from the community. And on behalf of all the staff here at USD 436, I can't thank you enough for those efforts. So, questions, thoughts, and concerns. This is where I need you to reach out to me and let me know what you'd like to know about for the next Bullpup brief. Here's how you can reach me. Of course, I'm right across from the high school and junior high and available anytime at the following number. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And again, see me around the community. I look forward to working with you this upcoming year, and if there's anything I can do, please don't hesitate to ask. Let's have a great year.